Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. We are just holding you for your lunch, but won't be too long. It's a very interesting discussion we are having. Like we all marketeers are started from the days of spray and pray on television to now a targeted advertising, be it programmatic or otherwise. We are trying now getting as sharper in our advertising as it can get. And RCS, WhatsApp advertising, all of it is helping us do that. In my mind, as you would know, RCS had been around for a while, but not yet on Apple ecosystem. It is on Android yet. More so, we can call RCS an equivalent of WhatsApp for business. Interestingly, here we have people who are on all different sides of the usage, creation, and use cases of RCS. So we have Sumeet, who would be an ardent user of RCS if it picks up the way WhatsApp marketing has picked up. We have Argho, who would also be one of the users and also trying to experiment with different use cases of RCS going forward. We have Nishesh. He is the builder from Root Mobile. He is the one who creates APIs and who will create business cases as we reach out to him. And interestingly, we have Akila, who is on all sides of the arena. At JioAds, they have the platform. They create RCS and also use it for themselves and help others also use it. So in this interesting scenario, we'll first start with Sumeet because she is one of those users who had dabbled with use of SMS, MMS, WhatsApp for marketing and all those plethora of marketing services and her widest of portfolios, and yet to believe how RCS could be one of the big things for her. And also, since RCS is a cost-effective solution, maybe someday in time, in future, it works for them. So over to you, Sumeet.
Thanks, Vishnu. First, good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for being here. So I must confess, in the lounge when we were having a discussion amongst ourselves, I actually said we tried RCS a couple of years ago, and I was telling Akila and Nishesh, we weren't very happy with the results, and we haven't done that later. And Nishesh said, if you're an iPhone user, you've not interacted with it enough. So he opened his mobile and showed me the various new templates. And of course, we all know the cost advantage. So I'm very motivated, thanks to this panel, and the discussions I've had with them, that me and my team are going to really work on it and see how we can make it very successful. Because whether it is conversational AI, whether it's WhatsApp, everything to really start working for you, you need to obviously work, iterate, and see. And we have a portfolio of businesses, and sometimes some solutions work brilliantly well with Jeevansathi users, but not necessarily well with property buyers. And similarly, something might work with job seekers, and not really with people who are looking for education or not really in the Gulf. So I'm very motivated to go and do more pilots, thanks to you all, on RCS and try and make it work as a solution. Because as you said, definitely SMS has a huge cost advantage. But in our businesses today, we are kind of now for the last maybe 4 years using a lot of WhatsApp and chatbots. So chatbots we've been using now for about 8 years, We have our own teams, we built them. They were first built on the platforms because WhatsApp was not what it is today. And now a lot of them, and we would use them for registration, etc. And they would be far more effective than just forms, just because they're conversational, So in all our businesses, we've been using chatbots, not just for feedback or customer support, but I think for 7, 8 years, very, very successfully for acquisition. And we've seen that the conversions when you're conversational versus a form are very different. But what is very interesting also is that when we look at, and as Naukri, we've got profiles and we can see who's registering. But when we look at tech profiles and we look at niche tech profiles, forms work much better. they're used to it. They want everything there. They put everything there. Conversational AI is not something that they're very, very interested in. But when we look at younger audiences, when we look at Gen Z, which is what we all have to cater to now, and some of us may be alpha, we definitely see chatbots working better. WhatsApp we have used in every business and is giving us tremendous results. And I'm not only talking of WhatsApp as a broadcast medium, because I think all of us, even as consumers, are responding more to WhatsApp than to SMS, and more to SMS than email. But we've kind of, today all of us want real time, right? We all want super hyper personalization. We want you to know what I want, and I think some of the social platforms are doing a brilliant job. And we entered when I think Pulkit and Dilshad were just ending, and he said something very relevant, and he said you need to build for every platform keeping that platform in mind, and not just keeping your brand in mind, because success only comes then. So when it comes to WhatsApp, what we've seen is that since we know our user, if we can real time start serving recommendations there and then in the journey, which I think e-com does brilliantly, because there's a cart, there's an abandoned cart, there's something else, there's a lot of signals there. But I think businesses like ours have started doing them real, and I'm actually not real time, but maybe 1 minute lag, right? Otherwise we would do everything 10 minutes, 15 minutes, end of the day. But in the last 1.5, 2 years, we've seen that if you're doing it almost real time, because there's still a 1 minute lag, to be honest, the kind of results that you're seeing are tremendous. And what we are now actually moving to, and we've moved to in most of our businesses, is can these recommendations actually come from AI, right? Because then it's like the Insta algo, right? Which means it's real time tuning itself every 3 to 4 minutes, depending on what you're seeing. And I think both together, which is really what the AI-based algorithms can do with the platform, we are seeing great results, be it serving recommendations for property, be it serving recommendations for, jobs. So we see a lot of conversational AI that we're using through WhatsApp. And of course, we started using a lot of it on the web far before. I mean, that's an older piece. So that's what we're doing. We haven't done too much of RCS, but I hope when we see you next year or 2 years from now, I don't say this, and I can actually talk about a lot of interesting RCS use cases that have kind of worked for us. So that's from us, really. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Sumeet. That has been very insightful. Argho, we would want to hear from you. You were talking backstage about interesting use cases. You can have it in a product like yours. So over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Vishnu. I will just pick up from where Sumeet left off, right? So what's very important to understand, where are we as an ecosystem? So now I wouldn't go ahead and say okay, SMS was the weak link or traditional SMS was the weak link, but it is about conversational commerce is as much about unification of experience than it is about unification of messaging. So what RCS might do for you, right? So currently you have chatbots, you have the website, you might have in-app messaging, then you have WhatsApp, right? Even your emails can get automated with rich text, right? But what happens about the SMS? So RCS essentially for me, right, as a marketeer, whether it be a B2B marketing or a B2C marketing, clubs that gap. Now when I'm having a conversational commerce with my customers, right, or my probable consumers, I am able to give a more unified experience that he is across different touch points, because I can't control where he or she goes, right? So that's where RCS comes in. The next part about RCS and even WhatsApp or whatever is happening is, we are businesses, we are not media houses. We are not in the business of dissemination of information. We are in the business of creating value. RCS or WhatsApp allows me to create more value than maybe the traditional SMS did or the email did. So basically, how does value gets created? Value gets created when a conversation continues, right? How do we make friends, right? I ask Sumeet, hi Sumeet, how are you? We get introduced and that's it. So I did not make a friend there, right? When we got into a conversation is where we made friends. So what chatbots, WhatsApp, RCS does for us is gives us an opportunity to have a conversation. Conversation will build relationships, and that is what will bring in the dollars. There is no other way for any brand to bring money in this digital led ecosystem rather than have this conversation. Finally, people always fall back, right? So RCS is cheaper than WhatsApp, WhatsApp is costlier than RCS. So I have a different POV on that. It's basically you have to use both. You have to seek what works for what segment, what works for what set of customers. Because I personally believe expensive and costly are not the same thing, right? Costly is something which has inherent value, right? Hence, there is a cost, there is an amount of money you pay, right? So a 65 or 70 paise thing might seem costly, right? But even a 8 paise SMS might turn out to be expensive because you're not able as a business to derive value from it. So that's my take. And final thing is why RCS or why WhatsApp? It's a real estate game. So whenever you're on your mobile and you get a notification, you need to capture as much real estate as possible. RCS gives you that, right? At the end of the day, the more you're visible, more likely people will engage with you and you will be able to sell.
That's wonderful. Very insightful, Argho. Nishesh would take us through the completely different aspect of it, the tech, the development, how the APIs work, what all can be done. And amongst ourselves and maybe in the audience, there would be a lot of people interested to know the use cases of RCS. WhatsApp we have done and known. Conversational targeted communication is given. How RCS can help us on that is what we'll listen from Nishesh.
Good afternoon. I think so from the marketing side, Sumeet has covered a lot of stuff being a marketing expert. So I'll straight away come to the use cases and how companies like us can actually help you. So one thing I want to tell you that the days of plain vanilla promotional SMS or messaging are gone. 90% of our brands today are moving to conversational SMS or conversational RCS or WhatsApp. And thanks to Meta, they've built this very good ecosystem of conversational messaging. I would even call it conversational, commerce in a way. Because today, within that chatbot, you can take customer feedback, you can propose a product, and you can actually complete the entire transaction by, integrating a gateway like, say, PayU within that chatbot. So, I don't see most of the brands, going for SMS anymore, though still it's the traditional medium and people are still using it. Coming to RCS, so I think whatever WhatsApp has done in the last 3-4 years, RCS has the capability to take it to the new level altogether. Because the biggest benefit of RCS is that the message comes in your native inbox. So you don't need any third-party app. And even with some of our existing customers, we've seen that the read rates and the conversion rates of an RCS message is almost 8 to 10 times of an SMS. Because it's more attractive, you can, there are no character limits. Then you can insert multimedia, you can insert even a video if you want. So I think that is the future. Now coming to some of the major use cases which are already live, like Delhi Metro, Hyderabad Metro and Pune Metro are live with us over both WhatsApp and RCS. So I think Hyderabad is both RCS and WhatsApp, and Delhi Metro and Pune are only WhatsApp. So today if a traveler is coming from some other city to Delhi, and obviously, the hassle of buying a ticket or, then doing a lot of stuff, it wastes your 5 to 10 minutes. You can simply scan that barcode, make a payment through whatever payment gateway you want. You get a barcode on your mobile phone and just use it and, that's done. And it's live and running in Delhi Metro. If any one of you travels by Delhi Metro, I think you should try it the next time. And we are building similar use cases for a lot of industries, from travel to e-commerce to even education. Like education is one vertical where all the students are tech savvy. all the students have a mobile phone today. So some of the leading institutes today are sending basic stuff like your admission ID cards to taking the students' feedback to sharing their mark sheets even over WhatsApp. And I'm sure sooner it will come to RCS as well. So I think RCS definitely has a very good future. WhatsApp is doing brilliant. But RCS, I think, has a slightly edge. Very soon, you'll have RCS on your iOS as well. So I think these were some of the use cases which I have to share.
While on it, Nishesh, I would want to hear from you one more thing. Like WhatsApp is Meta's baby, right? Would there be a pushback from Meta or enhancement in the features? Why would they let go of a business if RCS takes over?
No, I'm sure they'll do everything to save their business. And I'm not saying that Meta won't exist once RCS comes. Definitely, there will be competition, and competition is always good for the customer. Commercially, Meta is slightly expensive. So if RCS is able to give you all the benefits at probably a fraction of cost, why would you use Meta? So Meta would either reduce costs. And then with Meta, see, Meta has a monopoly. RCS is coming via the operator route with Jio or Vodafone, and I'm sure going for the Airtel. So competition is always good for the customer, I believe.
So Akila, you are on all three aspects of the business. So how do you treat three different sides of it? One as a platform, one as a creator of RCS solutions, and also using it for your own business as a marketeer. This must be interesting, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. And I think just before we get into what, how we use it or how I think about it, I feel like I'm finding it very interesting that messaging as a subject is back in the advertising space. I haven't, in the last decade or so of being in advertising, messaging has never seen coming back as a viable medium, right? We've become very visual. Everything is about how visual or how social you can be. But messaging, so it's an interesting comeback to think about. And I think why that has happened is, of course, one impetus that we've seen is the fact that, so for any business, for anything to come back, three essential roles, right? Either the consumer is coming back to something, either the technology has improved to get it, and when these two come together, businesses naturally follow, right? So I think I'll talk about the technology part of it, and maybe for a lot of people, RCS is new. It's essentially rich communication services. It has existed for at least 20 years as a technology. And I've had the privilege of working at Ericsson many, many years ago, and I had heard it first then, in 2007-8, when Ericsson and Nokia were still talking about RCS being the future, but it never picked up. The reason is that it was an IP-based, internet-based technology. It is an IP internet-based technology, and our data was globally had not evolved to the stage where it is today. And the reason today we are hearing so much about RCS and RCS has picked up globally is because data has become very cheap for us, not so cheap maybe globally, but very cheap for us. So I think that's the big technology change that has happened. Because the technology has become affordable, a lot of people have been able to build services on top of it. Right? And build a lot of APIs, integrations, making it easier for businesses to come together. The other big shift that has happened is that we now are two large platforms globally when it comes to smartphones. I mean, smartphone penetration has grown tremendously, and there's Android and iOS. So Android has also sort of adopted this as their native, Android as in Google has its own, is the base platform. And iOS is also announced. So now with both data being cheap, smartphones the two biggest operating systems also coming together and, adopting RCS as a single standard has made it easier for it to tick off from the technology side. Now let's come to the consumer side. The consumer side, I think there's lots of changes. I mean, I would love to think of a world like, we're talking about Gen Z and stuff. They are becoming less and less, they're becoming more and more text-oriented. They're becoming more and more, they prefer conversations rather than somebody talking to them, somebody reaching out to them. So that's probably one angle. The other angle is also some of the existing platforms, it could be SMS, it could be WhatsApp. They have turned into spams, right? So there, again, creating conversations and doing conversations is becoming harder, or at least consumers are not preferring that as a channel. So I think if we put, and that is why I feel RCS is sort of picking up globally and, seeing the turn of the day, because A, technology, and B, consumers are also wanting some other way in which brands can communicate with them. And then of course, RCS has an advantage of like not having to download an app, it's natively there. Discoverability is being improved by Android and iOS eventually to make it your native inbox. Now, so if we think that this is going to continue to happen, then what it opens up for businesses is, I feel, very, very interesting opportunities in building a integrated communication channel, right? Think of it as a surface in itself, in which you as a business exist, and it's a surface for you to do an end-to-end journey and transaction with the user. And why that would make it possible is because, a lot of players, the technology players, are enabling that for you. And now coming to how we think of it as Jio, is not only that we give that basic infrastructure from being on the telco side, we have also sort of built our own signals on top of it, from our ads businesses, from our other businesses, to feed into what is the right customer experience that a business can offer to its consumers. And for us, this then becomes a journey of not just promotions, not just advertising, but also sort of looking at it from, your day-to-day communications. I mean, I'll give you an example. Of course, today, the gaming is one of the biggest adopters of RCS in India. Globally, there are many, many other categories, but in India, gaming has been one of the adopters. They have a lot of communication to do with consumers, right? Come build your team, today's a match, do this, do that, etc. So there's a lot of communication that they need to do, and they are using RCS and seeing value in reaching out to these users through those platforms. We have worked with utility partners, we have worked with e-commerce partners. Now, in our own case, we worked with our internal e-commerce companies, and we were able to build a whole discovery to add to cart to complete purchase journey within the platform itself, without the user having to go anywhere or do anything. So you don't lose the customer. So I think that's the perspective with which we're thinking about it. And a very important business group that we are building for is the small and medium businesses. Now, small and medium businesses cannot have a WhatsApp business account. They have a single number. And they do not, they can't do a different personal number and a different business. So we are also solving for the small and medium businesses through this channel. So imagine your grocer next door can have a complete business verified channel on RCS.
So, interestingly, we all have worked on BlackBerry messaging at one point in time, and it got completely wiped out when WhatsApp happened. That was a very interesting platform. It was free and whatever. Now, RCS, having all these business cases, does stand a chance to become a solution in itself as a economy, what do you call it, enabler for brands like PayU, for brands like Paytm maybe. All of them are working on their own solutions, but RCS layer becoming an enabler for them. So what's your thoughts on that, Argho?
A very important one. So while we all are talking about just sending out messaging, right? That doesn't add value to me as a business. So now I'm thinking selfishly as a business, right? What it allows me is once I send information, I also need data or information back, right? So that's where solutions are being built in. So if you talk about RCS, right? Or even with WhatsApp, if you have the postback built in, it's not just about telling your story, but it's also finding out what did the user interact with your communication, what did he or she do with the messaging, because that's conversation, right? Whether they have it or not with us, we should be then ready for the next set of communication or the next set of messaging. So that is what RCS maybe will allow us to do better than just what SMS was doing. The other part to think about here is any technology which makes things easier is going to be adopted. Now, how do we think is it easier? I am not thinking as a marketeer, but I also think as a consumer. So the best things to see is compulsive behavior. What are compulsive behaviors? Just like he mentioned, tickets. People have to buy tickets. So that is the first place wherever as a business, as a marketeer, you see compulsive behavior. That is where you test your RCS technology or conversational commerce technology. If it works there, then you expand it to other parts of the business. The whole idea is not to be overwhelmed by everybody using RCS or everybody using conversational commerce. It is looking, so that's what PayU does for itself, and also PayU suggests to all its users, right? Look at your data, look at how you can use it, find the easiest way through. Once you have found the easiest way through on how the conversation or how the commerce is actually happening, and then expand. So scaling in India, anybody can say, is an easy business. It might be a costly one, but it is easy. But it is basically finding the right fitment of what part of your business you want to use this for. For somebody, it might be acquisition. For me, it might be customer retention, right? For any of these guys, it might be, reintroduction or resurrection of customers, right? So the use cases will be different, but find a easy use case, implement it. If it works, then expand it. That's what I would say.
And adding to what he said, see, today on an average, you would have at least 50 to 60 apps on your phone for various things. Now, both WhatsApp and RCS have the capability to actually replace those apps. So, like there are certain RBI approvals pending, but going forward, if RBI approves, from that one WhatsApp window with your bank, you can get your account balance, you can make a transaction, you can transfer money, you can do everything. And like we are working on a use case with one of the airlines. It may take some time, but then from that WhatsApp window, you can actually search for flights, get the prices, and actually book the tickets without going to any third-party app. So I think going forward, it's good for the consumer. You don't need to have 50 apps in your phone. Yeah.
So the last part, what you said, is really interesting. Rather than having 50 to 100 apps on my phone, I would have a few numbers saved in my phone book. And for different businesses, right from airlines to hotel booking to metro tickets, I can work on that. So we believe, all of us here, that RCS has a promising future. We will see WhatsApp fight back with more features and more power to us. As consumers, of course, we stand to gain. As marketeers, we need to keep delving into newer things as always. We started back using print television ads, and now over to digital, and now shooting in the head with a personalized messaging. that had been a very interesting conversation with all of you guys. I would ask if we have questions on the floor. We'll be happy to take them.
Thank you very much. Hi everyone, I'm Rakesh Mehta. So I have a quick question here that as we see that AI and chatbots are continue to improve, how can brands, when they do their conversational marketing through platforms like RCS and WhatsApp, how can they maintain or remove the robotics and maintain the human touch?
I think I'll just kind of jump in and I think what you said is important because whether it is robotic voice calls, whether it is chatbots, I think as consumers and as brands at every touch point now, brands and businesses are enabling it. And I think Akila said, even WhatsApp spam is only increasing and therefore people are blocking and not responding as they are going to. I think it's important to keep training and keep iterating, and that's the point I think a lot of us made, that it's start small, keep iterating, see what's giving you better results. And I don't think you can make it today and then say that now for the next 3 years I don't need to train this model or retrain this model, because you might have a first mover advantage due to which you're seeing phenomenal conversion rates or clicks and interactions. But as a consumer gets bombarded by this from many, many more businesses, behavior changes, right? So I think it's important. In the earlier eras, 2-3 decades ago, the call centers did that, right? You got used to those accented voices where Jonathan or somebody was calling you and then they needed to go into a more native voice. So I think as businesses, we'll have to keep retraining our chatbots, need to keep seeing what's working. And in today's era where vernacular has become very, very important, so in personalized, I think that also plays a big thing. And when you go vernacular, it's not just the language, it's the dialect, right? Punjab will have 5 dialects, UP will have 4 dialects. So people in one province will not maybe pronounce a word in the way it's pronounced in the same state in a different province. So I think it's very, very critical for businesses not to just create and then say, ab chal jayenge agle 5 saal, because nahi chalenge, because things will keep reducing. So we need to keep retraining. I mean, those are my 2 bits, and we've seen that. If you keep doing that, is where you can maintain those response rates, whether it is for retention, acquisition, whatever. If you don't, then behavior changes very drastically. None of us had spam on LinkedIn. None of us had spam on WhatsApp when we all started using it. Today, we are all getting inundated with messages. We don't have businesses on our phone books, but we are receiving WhatsApps, right? So I think those kind of things then lead to behavior changes. And as businesses, we need to be conscious of that and keep retraining. My 2 bits on that, because we do that.
Just to add to that, the best thing or the lovely thing about technology is technology will solve problems that it has created, right? So we didn't have this problem, right? But we always had the problem of rude customer service people, right? And companies dealt with it. So now AI will also start getting EQ, emotional quotient, right? The word here is empathy. The whole idea is technology will make you understand when does a person need to speak to a real person. AI is not about replacing workforce. AI is about getting things done faster. And whenever a human needs to step in, there will always be a human, at least for the brands which need to survive, who will step in and solve for it, until and unless AI gets sentinel, right, and has its own EQ. So that's my take. It's not about getting the right answers, it is getting the right sourcing of who your customer needs to speak to. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Mandeep. We've been talking here about, as you said, ticketing is one of the solutions, right? What I want to understand, are you also thinking about card tokenization on the platform? Card tokenization, I mean that you are able to pay through Master Visa or any other card. We have a digital form I can tap and pay.
I think JioMart was the first one to pilot something like this over WhatsApp, where they have, I mean, you can elaborate if you...
No, so I think at a large, I mean, from a, I think it's a, card tokenization is a wide subject, but if the question is it going to be easier for users to use different payment methods? Is that your question?
No, essentially we look at, I see the payments in two ways. One, the UPI. The way I see one of the larger chunks of transaction is one of, apart from that is payment is also one of the prominent way when the people transact, they need to and fro communication, e-invoicing, etc. What we see is happening, right? So if I want to pay my bills or whatever, today I'm linking it to some kind of a PPI wallet or something, But when I have a credit facility in my card, which I want to avail, it's also important that I use that. And, I have a tokenized card. So for example, if I'm traveling in the London metro, I can simply open my Google Pay and tap my card just to, make the ticket there. I don't need to go and, it becomes seamless, So I don't need to get into an app or do, this kind of a 2 or 3 step, kind of a transaction.
And you can, I'll just share my 2 cents there. So essentially, so think of it this way that our payment infrastructures and our messaging and infrastructures, they are of course governed differently. So when the full possibilities of those will happen, of course it will come into the messaging side of things. Like, for example, today on a UPI app, you can add cards and you don't need to take your cards out, and you can use your tap and pay and, do things like that. It could be, it's a possible use case to do it.
I see that in Hong Kong and China being used very often, so.
Yeah.
So I'll take a different payment side stab at it, right? So what RCS will do is try to make native or WhatsApp concept to make native your experience, right? But the payments will still happen through regulated models, through payment gateways, right? Now can card tokenization at payment gateways happen? Yes, they will still happen. It's the integration of what you're doing, right, versus the ecosystem where you're operating in. So to answer your question in short, will that 3-click model work in India? I do not see that happening immediately, right? But transactional times or transactional effort that is going down will go down considerably. Yeah. So there's something interesting, this might be for everybody, that people are working on. So OTP is also on the way to be replaced by your face or by your fingerprint. You can lose a OTP, but hopefully you won't lose your face or a finger. So at some point of time, the
OTP is just a way to authenticate, You
authenticate I'm talking about. So you can use your face to authenticate it. And if time permits, I have a question for everybody, right? And then so I don't have a...
But for sure.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for this, so please touch base with me. So RCS and everything is very phone or device based. As we are moving on to wearables, right, as a technology, where does RCS and where does WhatsApp fix in is something I don't have an answer to. If anybody does, please.
But honestly, I think wearables still are more of a gimmick. Like I'm wearing a smartwatch, but I've never checked an email on my watch. So it's more of a, probably it does nothing beyond counting my steps every day. So, yeah, so I think I still see a long way to go before it comes on the wearables.
Yeah, I've got an answer to this. When you talk about wearables, it's generally driven by a technology called RFID. Yeah, RFID. So your smartwatch would have a RFID antenna, and then the messaging can be linked to it. So in Sweden, there are use cases where people are just tapping in.
Yeah, that's only for payments, right?
No.
Excuse me.
Also for the messaging.
I'm really sorry to interrupt, but we are already past the time. Maybe we can have an offline discussion on this.
Thank you.
We had a very interactive session. Thank you, everyone. And more to it. More power to all of us. Thank you.